So welcome to tonight's Telea Talk. I'm Casey Rogers, the founder and CEO of Telea Insights, which is a social impact consulting firm. And Telea Talks are all about inspiration and connection, and bringing inspiration into this living room and hoping that you each will take it with you out into your lives and beyond these walls. To really tell you more about Telea, I'll say that it's derived from a Greek word meaning ultimate purpose. And the inspiration for Telea Insights really started more than 20 years ago when I lived and worked as a teacher in Namibia in Southwest Africa. I was in my very small apartment and I heard a knock on the door. And I went and answered it. And standing in front of me was a young girl, a teenager. And she said, "Miss, do you have any work for me?" And in that moment, I did not know what to say. I was a teacher, she was a student. What did she need? Who was she? But in that moment, I knew that the only right answer was yes. And I firmly believe that we need more yeses in this world. We need to be able to say yes to many more possibilities, and we're capable of it. The young girl's name is Tuli, and in that moment, she really made me realize that we were connected, and that not just she and I are connected, but there is an interconnection globally. And that together we have the capacity to do things that might seem harder than we initially imagined. And that's really what brings us here tonight, is to hear from an inspiring global leader, Dr. Flavia Maia, and to hopefully have our hearts touched and take those stories out into the world. I've found that I am often at tables where the majority of the conversation is around finance and real estate. And that's no offense against finance and real estate. But I also know that there are so many human stories in this world that are about possibility that deserve to be at those tables as well. And in a way, even though we aren't around one table tonight, we are in a home and in a living room and gathering. And the idea is to showcase and bring more of these stories to the fore. And I will say, you'll notice that we're filming tonight. And the idea behind that is really that we shouldn't be the only people who are able to hear Flavia's story. And so let's capture tonight to be able to share more broadly. So thank you to Danielle and to Karen for being here. As you heard several times, there was this expedition to Antarctica in March of 2022, which was led by the polar explorer Robert Swan. And there are several of us in the room who were part of that. It was for climate leaders to come together, representing 37 different countries and 150 people total. And in one of the first days we all gathered together, Flavia spoke, but not as the speaker. She spoke as a participant, really challenging some of the ideas that were being put forward about what climate work looks like from her perspective as a woman from northeastern Brazil in a coastal community. And as soon as I heard Flavia speak, I knew we're going to do something together. Because the world needs to know your voice. And that has set us on a friendship and a path over the last 15 months or something like that, that has taken us to New York City and many, many Zoom calls. And it's a real honor and privilege to be able to host Flavia here tonight. Flavia has a really distinguished background, from a PhD in urbanism to Obama Scholar to Dalai Lama Fellow. and you can certainly read more about her. But what I know is that she leads with the heart, and that she honors relationships, and that she is here to make our world better. So, welcome, Flavia.
Wow. Make me cry. Oh, no. Thank you so much, Casey. Thank you so much for being here. I'm feeling like home since I arrived because California is warm. People are just warm. And when I saw this fire, when I arrived earlier, I said, Casey, wow, in my village, when we have something important to say, or if we need a blessing, or if we just want to be together, we sit in circle around a fire like this, just to be with people. Sometimes we don't even speak, because it's not all about our heads, right? We have our heads, we have our heart, we have our hands. We have our body, we have our soul, we have our minds. So this is how I invite you to be here today, actually. As if you are on the beach, on a tropical beach. I will tell you more about it. But imagine that you are in Barra Grande, where I am from. And that you are here with me, and I will tell you some stories. You can choose to hear with your head, all the data backing up what I'm saying, but you can also just choose to connect me in a personal level, as if you are all Brazilians like Valentin. I start my presentations usually honoring someone who is not here, someone who would love to be here, but who cannot be here for some reason. And today I will dedicate my presentation to Rosie, my friend Rosie. She's a black woman. She was born in the periphery of São Paulo. She had a very violent upbringing. And Rosie ended up in this village where I live, in Barra Grande. And Rosie is very angry about social injustice. And once she told me that the only thing she felt that she could do about it was to help people heal with her hands. So Rosie is a masseur. But for me, she's much more than this. She's a healer. And she reminds me every time that I am one, but I am not alone. So this presentation, this one goes to Rosie. Quando olhei a terra ardendo, qual fogueira de São João, eu perguntei a Deus do céu por que tamanha judiação. Hoje, longe, muitas léguas, numa triste solidão, espero a chuva cair de novo para eu voltar para o meu sertão. When I saw the land on fire, I thought, why God? Why such a harsh judgment? I lost my cattle, I lost my crops, I'm now miles away. And I just want the rain to fall again so I can go back to my sertão, so I can go back to where I come from. So I look at my grandfather and he says, play it again. And I play the song. And I look at him and I don't know what he's trying to tell me, but he has like this sad smile in his face that I could not understand as a kid. And then I would play the song to him and they would say, play it again. I didn't know why. He never told me about his past. But it was a couple of years ago that I decided to investigate the story of my family. And I learned that they had to migrate because of drought. This area in Brazil, it's called the drought polygon. And part of my family is from this area where there is a desert as big as England in size. So because of desertification, they had to move and to try to have a better life in the Amazon. So they moved to the desert, to the jungle. And my grandfather ended up here in Teresina, in the capital of Piauí, the state where I am from, where I live, and where I decided to work. So here are some pictures from different moments in history. So, as Casey said, I traveled the world. I went to the Netherlands, I went to New York, but I ended up deciding to stay in Piauí, deciding to stay where I am from. But I don't know why. Like, I couldn't explain with my head, but maybe it's on my DNA. Maybe climate is something that runs into my blood. The thing is, I am there. I am there, and I decided to create Filha do Sol. Filha do Sol is a non-profit on a mission to restore ecosystems with women. I believe in the power of women in the tropics. I believe in women like Rosie and many others that I live with in this community called Barra Grande. We live in a beautiful region. It's called Parnaíba River Area of Environmental Protection. For me, it's one of the most beautiful regions on Earth, and I think I would not be exaggerating if I say that less than 1% of the planet is as preserved as this area. But still, climate change is destroying this area, and agribusiness and urban expansion and many other problems are happening. And I couldn't stand seeing this desertification all over again. I didn't want this to be part of my future. It was part of my past. It was all family history by now, and I felt I needed to do something. So I came together with two of my closest friends, Ravena and Rebecca, and I co-founded with them Filha do Sol. Filha do Sol is working locally, but we have a vision, we have an ambition to work across the tropics. We think climate change needs a global solution, but not a one-size-fits-all solution, because climate change happens differently everywhere. But if you go to the front lines, if you go to communities like mine, you will see women doing so many things. They're holding the front lines of this massive crisis. I tell you, they are not here, but I'm here to tell you that they exist. They are doing amazing work there. They are planting mangroves, they are educating kids, they are cleaning plastic pollution. They are doing everything for free, and they are doing with all their love. When I created Filha do Sol, I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. I wanted to be a connector. I am inspired by women like Erica and Casey. They are connectors in their own ways, and I think maybe I can do this also for them, like a fractal, you know? Like you are connecting me and I'm connecting them, and maybe at some point we will have a network of women connected across the tropics and being valued by what they do better, which is protecting nature, regenerating Mother Earth. Also, if you go to a community like mine and if you ask one of these women, like, what's the main problem here? They will never say climate. Climate for them is so far, far away in their priority list. They would say water. I don't have water because the well is getting salty and I don't know what to do. And then my role is to say, okay, I will help you. And I'm here to say you are one, but you're not alone. What you want to do is climate action because your well is salty because of sea level rising. And there's something out there called climate movement. What if we connect your initiative, your project, to this movement, to climate finance? And what if you don't feel like you have to do everything by yourself, but then you are part of a climate coalition? And you are doing this with water, and you have another woman there protecting crops, and another woman educating kids, but we are all together in this climate coalition to restore ecosystems. And they said, yeah, yes, let's do this. So we have been mobilizing more than 100 women. These women are from the sustainable use area called Resex Delta. They live off the land. They are shellfish catchers. They are fisher women, and they basically live to protect the land. And we came together with them to start thinking about what we can do as a coalition. And I'm now, in this moment, it's me here, very happy, as you see. So, very happy to be with them and thinking, okay, how can we move this forward? Because I don't want just to plant 3 hectares of mangroves here and 4 hectares there. What we are speaking here is about exponentiating your impact. You have to remember that we went through Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro was the tropical Trump. He destroyed Brazil. He destroyed the Amazon forest. He destroyed the mangroves.
And the laws that sustained.
And because the monitoring, the laws were not in place. So we will replant Brazil. We need to. We are the ones we have been waiting for. No one else will do it for us. And as you may know, 20% of the world's biodiversity is in Brazil. So there is no solution to global warming without Brazilian mangroves, without the Amazon forest. Brazil is the most important country on Earth today to assure our survival as a species. And if we are talking about including Brazil in the climate conversation, we need to include Brazilians. The solution cannot be from the outside only. We need the guardians of the land to be on board. We need them to understand why they are important. Maybe they are the most important women on Earth today, at least for me they are. So I want to value them as such. This is where we are at this moment. We are fundraising to restore mangroves. We are also fundraising to start the first climate school for women in the front lines. I want them to connect the dots, to be empowered to tell their stories. Maybe next year when I'm here with you, Casey, again, I will have someone by my side, probably Rosangela, who is the daughter of a fisherman, and she is restoring 4 hectares of mangroves. And what she is doing now is she's having a side job so she can fund the restoration project with the other women. And all the women working there are working for free as volunteers. So I dream about a moment where they would do this, like this would be part of their income, and they will be recognized as climate leaders. I remember the first time someone called me a climate leader, I was at the Obama Foundation, and someone introduced me, this is Flavia, climate leader from Brazil. And I was like, wow, this is a warm feeling, you know, because I was never referred to as a climate leader before. I am an environmentalist from Brazil, and Brazil is one of the countries that kills environmentalists the most. So I was spending most of my career trying to pretend I was not an environmentalist and trying to hide. But now in the US, I am a climate leader. I am important.
It's all about reframing.
So yeah, I want them to feel the same. Like, you're all climate leaders. Let's do it together. I could spend some time here now trying to convince you why the tropics are so important to address climate change. I don't think drowning you with data would help, but I want you to know that we are doing this together, not just because the women are amazing and not just because my local community is a tropical paradise, but because the world needs the tropics and the US needs the tropics as well. The tropics are this first line of defense against catastrophic impacts of climate change. For example, the next pandemic is likely to come from the tropics, because when there is this high interaction between biodiversity and poverty and unsustainable urbanization, this is where the diseases emerge. I want to tell you something here. Experts say that the yearly cost of future pandemics will be $2 trillion. More than half of the global risk for disease emergence is concentrated within just 10% of the world's tropical forest. So more than 0.5% of the risk is in 10% of the world's tropical forests. For just 1% of the cost, the world could prevent pandemics at their source by protecting nature, stopping deforestation. So the solution to avoid the next pandemic, which is 1% of the cost of managing a pandemic, is to avoid tropical deforestation. It's what they are doing. So why are we not investing on them? The other data that for me is very shocking is also about climate migration. And it speaks close to my heart, because while the migration that happened in Brazil was from one region to another, experts say that in the future it would be from the global south to the global north. Actually, there is this series on the New York Times Magazine, supported by the Pulitzer Center. They say, the great climate migration has already begun, stemming from areas where temperature rise has already surpassed 1.5 degrees. Areas where it's just too hot to live. There's not enough water, the crops are failing. So it becomes too hot to live. Where those people can go? So in the most extreme climate scenarios, more than 30 million migrants would head towards the US border over the next 30 years. Climate migrants, part of these 30 million, would leave because of drought, crop failures, and rising seas. Central and South America, small island, and coastal regions are not only the most impacted, but also those with less ability to adapt. The world can now expect that with every degree of temperature increase, 1 billion people will be pushed outside the zone where humans have lived for 1,000 years. What gets reported in the US news as an immigration crisis is actually a hunger crisis brought on by the climate crisis. So what we are seeing in the US border now, part of what you're seeing are climate migrants that come from Central America in regions that are semi-arid, which is the same biome, the same ecosystem, the same temperature of my region. So again, I hope this is part of my past, not my future, and I hope we can work together to figure out a solution for it. I think the solution that I designed with my community and with the Obama Foundation and the Dalai Lama Fellows is a very strong and robust solution. I think we need to go where people are, to work with their real problems, to engage them in meaningful climate action. It doesn't make sense for me to go to Dona Rosario, an elderly person, and to say, okay, we are curbing emissions, Dona Rosario. We are limiting global warming to 1.5 Celsius degrees. And she will say, kid, like I have to worry what I'm eating. So you're telling me this. But if I tell Dona Rosario, we need to think about how to provide water for you, for your family, for your kids. Would you like to do it for me? This is something called climate action. I can tell you all about it, but you will have water, you will have food. And then I have Dona Rosario engaged, and not only Dona Rosario, but all the other communities, all the other women engaged in meaningful climate action. For me, I was reading this book called Emergent Strategy, and they say, small is beautiful. And I would add, small is beautiful, scale is necessary, but scale has to be mindful. I don't want just to go wide with Filha do Sol. I want to go deeper into the communities. And I want this to be a global network of women across the tropics, in the front lines of climate change, and being proud of their work. So, thank you. Thank you for being here with me today, and thank you for listening.
Just stay here for 1 second.
Okay.
I just want to ask Flavia a quick question, because there's something that we have talked a lot about that you just touched on here. So I just want to prompt you to share a little bit more about that, which really has to do with this connection between a love for nature and the earth, and that being a motivation for engagement.
Yeah. For me, love is an important value that guide climate action. I don't act on climate based on fear and on blaming. I was there before. I was a angry young person screaming that past generations did this with us, or the global north did it with us. I'm not this person anymore, simply because it doesn't propel me forward rapidly enough, and I was definitely not happy. This is for sure. So I started to wonder, what if we could act on climate from a place of love and possibility? And I heard someone called Rabbi Ariel Berger comparing acting on climate on having a baby in your, how do you say this in English? Holding a baby. And imagine that this baby is planet Earth. And this baby is on fever, is running a fever. What do you feel? You feel like you have the sense of urgency. You have to solve it. But you also have this kindness, this tenderness, like this open-heartedness. You think, okay, I need to solve it fast, but I do it from this place of fierce love. And this is how I feel about climate action. I think this vision can contribute to the conversation. And I was, like many young people today, suffering from eco-anxiety. But I think this can also be paralyzing. And we cannot be paralyzed now. So I draw inspiration from this sense of love, but more than everything, self-love. Because if I am Earth, if I am I'm alive on Earth, self-love is climate action, because we are the same organism. We are all in this together.
Thank you, Flavia. Super. Thank you so much. There will certainly be time for all of you to have a chance to chat with Flavia. And thank you so much for being here. I like the idea of getting together again in 1 year to hear an update.
Maybe in Brazil.
Yes.
Maybe in Brazil. Yes, I know that Flavia is hosting a few friends in August in Brazil. So if anybody's keen to visit, that would be something to talk about. Yeah. With Telea Talks, we have homework, which is to take something that you heard tonight out into the world. As I said at the very beginning, it doesn't do a ton of good if the stories and thoughts and emotions that you've felt tonight stay within these walls. But rather to take the story and inspiration out into the world, and to very intentionally share what you heard tonight, a piece of it, a snippet of it, with several others, and to create those ripples that can go farther and wider than we could probably even imagine. Before we conclude, I just want to say a few thank yous. Before you thank everyone, let me add something. Sure. That I learned something with Casey. She said the only people that don't like to speak about money are those who don't have money, like me. So I will make sure that I tell you that I'm fundraising for Filha do Sol, for Filha do Sol to exist. So we just finished year 1 of Filha do Sol, and I'm fundraising for year 2 and year 3. So I need to raise $340K for year 1 programs and operations, plus $150K for women's stipends and scholarships. I just want to make sure that I say it, because I often finish my presentations being shy of speaking about fundraising, but this is something that I learned with Casey, and I just want to make sure that I put it there on the table. Excellent. Before we close.
Right here. While you're saying that,
yes, please.
To add to that, something that, because you were leading from the heart, that I just want to underscore is the kinds of solutions that you're talking about. By drawing financing towards them, you pointed to this with pandemics, but by every possible metric, resourcing on-the-ground solutions developed by the people who are responding to real-time data make the most economic sense for combating climate change. And for just fractions of what is going towards top-down solutions, we can create exponentially more resiliency by driving the financing towards the kinds of solutions you're working on. So I just wanted to...
Beautiful. We have a good orator over here. Yes. So just in conclusion, so there is time for more mixing and mingling and talking. I want to thank my dear husband Michael so much for being excited to open our home again and again. I really want to thank Caitlin Ryan for helping to bring this together, to Delina Clan, who is in the background but an essential person to make this a smooth event, to Marlo and Maria, who are feeding and libating us. Can I make that a verb? And I also want to give a thank you, Joe, to you for sending me to Antarctica, because without that, we wouldn't be here, and that's a very true fact.
Thank you for donating for Filha do Sol.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you again for being here. Really excited to host you, and please continue enjoying yourself for tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.